Hello and welcome to Journey Lines, the podcast answering the question, how did they get there? I'm your host, Kim Minnick. Each episode, I invite a guest to complete a reflective exercise plotting the highs and lows of their career against a line of neutrality. Ooh, it's been a while and I'm shaking off the dust. Together, we will explore the highs, lows, and everything in between. My guest today, Hennigan. Ro, thank you so much for joining us. Me.
Hey, Kim. Hey, yeah, you. It's us now, the two of us together. So thanks so much, Kim. So lovely to be here. And what an amazing concept. So I really enjoyed preparing for the interview today. So thanks so much for the invitation. It's been cool. Lots of fun so far.
Well, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to hear your story. I have been fangirling over you on LinkedIn for quite some time. And then we connected, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. Time's not real anymore.
No, time's not real on LinkedIn. You connect with someone a few months ago and it feels like years. Yeah, I think we've been in each other's orbit because when you invited me and I saw like Laurel and Kim Roar and like all the, I was like, I know people she knows. So I think we've been moving in similar orbits. And yeah, I mean, obviously we care about people stuff. We care about creating better workplaces. We've got lots of things in common from that perspective and building better teams and better organizations and work. So yeah, definitely lots of things in common.
So many. And you just mentioned two of my past guests. I love that. So I'm just going to, remind folks that those episodes exist. But today is about you. Before we dive into your journey line, the first question, I like to do a little Quentin Tarantino style. We'll start with the end. Tell me what you've got going on today, personally, professionally, holistically, like what's happening in your life?
Well, I am recovering from my menopause symptoms. I took a sabbatical 2 years ago, but I am still menopausal. Menopausal doesn't have, it's as long as it's a piece of string, as they say, it doesn't have a really predictable start and end point. So, however, I do feel like I'm coming out the other side in terms of symptoms and in terms of perhaps accepting and adapting and being able to deal with the roller coaster ride of the hormonal transition. And I'm doing well. I'm finding a new balance in my work. I think we go through these cycles, don't we, in life of sort of maybe going off course and then coming back onto the plan. So that's definitely where I am. I've had a really good year in work where I'm working less hours, but feeling that I'm more focused and productive. And I've been getting some help from my lovely husband in terms of managing my solopreneur business and sort of structuring things better, more effectively. So all in all, really, really good. I'm glad to sort of be coming out that other side of the hormonal transition, which, seems like a very personal thing, but as part of my overall story, I think it's really important to talk about these things because they really impact your work day to day if you're being overwhelmed by symptoms. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I am, the exit signs to this hormonal journey are on my highway, right? Like they're coming up. And I have appreciated, particularly on LinkedIn, how open you have been about this journey. And like, it's allowed me to open up a little bit with, I was talking about night sweats on LinkedIn because that's a new thing I get to experience. And like, there's just so much knowledge that we women have not been passing down. And this is such a wild, you think about puberty when you're younger, but this is as significant of a change, I think.
Definitely. And it's been so taboo for so long. Certainly I've been thinking about it in our own household as my daughter starts to enter into being sort of prepubescent, Kim. And what's interesting is even in Irish culture, we called having your period Auntie Jane coming to visit, for example.
When you Aunt Flo. Yeah.
And my grandmother never used the word. My mother did, but my grandmother never used the word. So we had these whole code words, Kim, and it's kind of the same for menopause. Menopause was never spoken about it. In my own line of mother, either mother or older women in my family, or more mature women, they didn't really talk about menopause, and it's still not spoken about like, and I think something my mother said was, I just want to forget about it now, that she come out the other side, which is fair enough if it's been a really hard transition. But I think it does reflect sort of women's psyche, or sort of if it's so hard, you just want to go forward and forget about it. Whereas, which I totally get, by the way, when I was in when I was in the throes of it, I didn't want to talk about it or share it, which was why I took the sabbatical. But equally, we have to look at it from, if we're not educating and talking and preparing the next group or next cohort of women coming through to those ages and that stages, it's really, we're doing everyone a disservice. And the reality, Kim, not to scare you about that exit sign, is perimenopausal symptoms are starting younger with the environmental pressure we put ourselves under, high cortisol from work, whether it be climate change or bad diet or whatever. Just like younger women getting periods earlier, we do have menopause either starting earlier or causing more chaos. And in a world where medical care is unequal anyways, for women, when women get gaslit, women of color get even more gaslit, in terms when they turn up and start talking about symptoms. We've a lot of misdiagnosis. We've a lot of lack of support. And I went through that as well. I went through 9, 10 appointments of trying to find a gynecologist that would listen to me and would give me the ethical and fair health treatment I was looking for. So, it's a rough ride for most women I speak to who have symptoms. So 50% of the population are going to have menopause. A good big chunk of that are going to suffer some symptoms like your hot sweats you're starting to experience now. And then as you go and look for services in whatever country, and I'm not, it's common across the world, there can be misdiagnoses, overprescribing of things like antidepressants, or trying to get rid of the symptoms rather than treat the underlying cause and look at the patient holistically. And so therefore, my biggest message is educate yourself. And in the show notes, I can give a recommendation of a couple of books as well, because there's things I wish I knew 6-7 years ago that I learned kind of the hard way along the way.
I mean, send them over. I feel like, again, that exit sign's coming. So I feel like I've started just asking, like, women in my orbit, those who are, mid 40s, mid 50s, into their 60s. I'm like, what should I know? Everything from, oh, you need more vitamin D to like, oh, you need that. It's just like wild how we're cobbling together this information without, with little medical and science support.
Exactly. And opening up the conversation. This is why. And actually, someone asked me the other day as well, why are you so vocal on menopause? It's taboo. It's stigma, there's a bit, it's stigma still attached to it. It's because of the direct messages, Kim, and these conversations. People like you say, thanks. I want to talk about it because that's what I needed 8-9 years ago. So I'm so happy that I can open that conversation. But Kim, you know what's so interesting? It's in my inbox. It's in my DMs. I do get, of course, feedback on the post, but it's still women message directly because they're still nervous about saying, hey, I'm struggling, whether it's an employer or societal acceptance. So we have to be really careful because a lot of celebs have come out and there's a lot of kind of hype around menopause. But my pulse on everything is it's still pretty taboo in case it's seen as a weakness. I don't know what you think about that. Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think it's something that we kind of like hush under the rug, that we don't, to your point earlier, we don't talk about how the symptoms impact day-to-day life. Like, night sweats impact sleep. And if I don't get good sleep, like, I'm a shell of a human and I can't show up my best. But we are getting wildly off track. And we need to.
We'll go wildly off track.
These podcasts are long enough as it is.
Exactly. Well, at least we're laughing and not crying together, Kim, for the moment.
Hey, I'd rather laugh with some sinners than cry with the saints, I think Billy Joel taught me. Okay, I've got your journey line up. I see we're taking a journey for me. We're going to 1980 Galway, Ireland for your first job at a family pharmacy.
Yeah.
Tell me everything.
Yeah, so I was born in 1972, so early 70s in Ireland, so I'm a 70s kid. I didn't speak English very well, which is an interesting angle to bring in here. My second language is Gaelic, Irish Gaelic, but I was raised bilingually. So I got kept back at school at the age of 5 or 6 to learn better English writing and reading. So that was part of sort of foundational to me, that sort of double Celtic culture in my family in the West Coast. My father was an entrepreneur. He had some pharmacies and photographic camera shops, and we all mucked in.
Oh.
We all mucked in. And my first job was cleaning glass shelves in the pharmacy and going around and organizing, stacking shelves in one of the bigger pharmacies. So the work ethic, we were a family of 5, it was quite strong, particularly for the older kids, the older 2 kids. So that's where I think my work ethic started. And also I saw how both my dad and mom were very good at customer service, and how they sort of greeted and really treated the locals who used the pharmacies a lot really, really well. So that was sort of my foundation to, I think, what is my work ethic, and also the start of my interpersonal skills, I believe.
Amazing. And how long did you work there, like into your teens, into your 20s? How long were you there for?
Well, this is part of the story. I worked there for
I'm skipping ahead.
No, 4 or 5 years, but unfortunately my parents got separated and eventually divorced. But we're talking about early 80s in Ireland, which was, again, the word taboo will come up a lot in stigma, because back then, even in a very Catholic Ireland, I started to experience feeling that otherly or an outlier, because a lot of my friends would not play with me or want to hang out with me because I was from a broken home. So, yeah, because
so
Ireland was
sad.
yeah, it is sad, but Ireland was, and I mean, still is in parts, very, very conservative. And because divorce didn't exist, so, a bit like divorce,
Sure.
it wasn't possible. You could try and, you could set up through the courts of separation, but it was very, very frowned upon at the time and not common. So that is part of the story. Then there was a lot of drama in our household because of that. And it was unfortunately a very messy split. And yeah, that did, as the eldest girl, and anyone who's tuning in that's the eldest child of a bigger family, particularly girls, if there has been any upsets or dramas, they do tend to take on a lot of responsibility. I mean, I took on a lot of responsibility. It was given to me in the situation,
Sure.
Unfortunately, circumstances. So I think the word that comes for those sort of teenage years is feeling responsible for everyone, because I did have quite a younger sibling, a very younger one. So there was one of the siblings, the last one, that was born quite late, or there was a big age gap to the youngest one. And so I felt a lot of responsibility to that particular sibling. And yeah, that became a bit of a theme throughout my life, in terms of feeling responsible, trying to take care of everyone, being a sort of a caregiver, or some people call it people pleasing, but it's kind of a bit more deep than that, because it's more that if you're a child and you feel responsible at a young age, it sticks with you. It sticks with you, if that makes sense. So
yeah, you've stepped into this role and you continue to like step into it for your career.
For your career. And then if anyone's tuning in and they're interested, what really helped me in my journey, other than therapy and different things to understand and accept that childhood, is a lot of reading around parentification. So parentification is the term when something like that happens in a family, and maybe the eldest child does have to step in and take on responsibility. Unfortunately, they're exposed and they have to grow up quite quick. And parentification it's just one of the things that happens, that they feel like a parent for no particular cause or blame or fault of anyone's else's. It's just the situation. And it's very interesting to look at parentification and childhood trauma, which it comes in under if you feel like you have to be an adult really quickly, and then how that plays out later. So we'll come back to that, Kim. We'll come back.
All right. Well, we'll keep moving forward then. So it's 1990. We're still in Germany, and you start exploring office work.
Well, what happened there was I went to Germany on an exchange with school. I was still in school, actually. I was still finishing school, 2 years for finishing
Okay.
school. And I went to Germany to do an exchange, and I got a part-time office job as part of, with the family I was based with for 3 months. They needed some help in the office. The doctor was in a medical department in an office in Munich, and he got me some part-time work. And that was my first work in an office with all the files and in all the different bits and pieces. And so, I mean, it was only part-time, but I think it is significant because that was from Ireland to Germany. And it was my first time in an international office at only age 16, 17, I think.
I mean,
So,
I would say most people don't ever get the experience to be
yeah,
in an international office.
yeah. So it was cool. It was, in Germany. And that period in Germany, in Munich, where I was based for 3 months as a 17-year-old, gave me the travel bug, and you'll see the travel bug comes through in 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 all of the rest of my story, because I've worked in so many places around the world or worked remotely. So yeah, it definitely is a key point in that story.
Absolutely. Now you have it kind of down below. Was this an enjoyable time, or is this just how the timeline worked out?
It's just kind of why my time, it was enjoyable, but I don't see them as, I know you'd sort of suggest it, but the way I laid it out, I deliberate. I guess it's the kind of therapist, because I'm a hypnotherapist. I do kind of mentoring and coaching work. So I don't see anything. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm human, Kim. There's days I do see, or moments I do
Sure.
see things as really negative. But on the reflection as part of this exercise, I saw all the points as making me who I am today. And I couldn't really plot them as really positive or negative. Just,
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. Hey, well, okay, cool. So I love that you started getting the travel bug, not to like skip ahead, but something that I think how I found you was I really love helping companies set up for remote work, asynchronous work. I think it's a different style of work than we have seen over the last, I don't know, 75 years. Um, and like it enables this ability to travel. And I have a
mm,
dream of taking my business and being able to travel and work and kind of like find that balance. So love that you caught that travel bug a little early, and then you pop over to Scotland taking jobs to put you through university.
yeah. So given the sort of situation at home, it was very, first of all, of course, once I got to a certain age, I want out of here. I want to have my own independence. I want to go to Scotland and study. So, and unfortunately, because of the financial situation, I had to find the money to study. So, I put myself through uni, basically. So the theme of hard work and not being afraid of hard work is very, very, apparent here, because I actually, even at one point, got in a little bit of trouble with the university because I wasn't attending. I wasn't attending as my classes as much as I should have been, because I was too busy, working 2 jobs part-time, and I was having problems juggling it all. So, yeah, but Scotland was brilliant. I really loved Scotland. I started off in Edinburgh and then went to Glasgow to do my master's, and the master's piece where because I'd put myself through uni, Kib, I'd not saved money, but I had sort of ended up kind of on balance, not too out of
Yeah.
pocket, which
Hey,
I know.
I graduated college with debt,
I
so
know. So I didn't have terrible debt. And the Scottish government at the time, because I'd paid taxes there because I was working part-time, they had a special loan for students who wanted to do masters or further education. So I decided, I'd done a business degree, did okay, loved the psychology, sociology, and kind of sort of more the human pieces of it. But I really enjoyed the marketing, and there was a master's in marketing which had a strong element in online marketing, consumer behavior. And so I said, okay, this is cool. This course is cool. Marketing is a really good, I'll get work in something to do with marketing. And because it looked good at the time, don't forget, 1998, 1999. And one of the lecturers was specialized, one, in online marketing. And luckily, during my master's, I borrowed the money, got a good loan on a deal, borrowed the money to do the master's. And he and I collaborated on my thesis, which I wrote on online communities. So I wrote a thesis in 1999 on building online communities. So this was early days in digital and tech marketing. So very on the cusp then. And coming out of that master's, I had like 5 job offers. I had a PhD offer too, which I almost took. So the same university went, oh my gosh, this is cutting edge. You're looking at how to
Keep going.
build.
I mean,
Yeah.
I see 1998 online communities. I participate in online communities today thinking like, all right, we're ahead of the
Yeah.
curve. And it,
Oh, yeah. Well, I started researching and looking. At the time, we don't have the same concept of communities. It was very much around forums and how we use forums, the early forums on websites.
I have this very vivid memory of my brother. He's a little bit older than me. And in the 90s, he would like dial up internet, plug in, and go to online forums and just like, I mean, chat is the word I will use, but like conversate with folks around the world. And it was such an early days community.
Exactly. And so the concept in Scotland, where the research I did for the thesis, there was a exporters community there. So a group of Scottish exporters who wanted to export their goods abroad. And we created a database and a website through the forum. We were trying to boost conversations, connections, then moving on to email, then to, of course, build trade. So the trade body in Glasgow connected with the university were very interested in my study and what I was looking at. And the PhD got offered. But at the very same time, don't forget years of studying and being very poor, I had a range of offers, because while I was building out the thesis, I also started looking at web design in 1998, 99, search engine registration, organic search engine registration at the time, sort of building the basic metadata at the back of websites. I learned a bit of HTML. And so I followed the money. I got a job with an agency. And yeah, so I was working 1999, 2000. I mean, it's really not that long ago when you think about it, Kim, but it feels like.
I mean, in the digital age, I feel like a year is 10, our memories aren't great, but like I would say in 1999, we weren't using internet that much. I was still in school. We weren't using internet that much in school. Like certainly it was not a everyday need as it is today.
Totally. But it was great I really enjoyed, I tell you what I loved, and I know you'll appreciate that. What I loved about, and maybe marketing, I loved the analytical side of digital marketing. I loved the fact that when I thought about consumer behavior and marketing, if we thought about sending someone a magazine in the post and them, or a brochure and them opening it up, we never know what they like. We never know what they looked at. And back then it was the simple thing of, if we have a website, we can tell what they're surfing through. We can see the product that gets the most hits. We can look at early days of UX and UI across websites and all that. So the analytics was really interesting to me. And luckily then for me, and it explains the next 10 years, I started digging into the analytics. I started getting into, like, as I said, search engine marketing, weblog tracking, which was the early Google Analytics on websites. And that overlapped into data modeling. And even though I was a marketeer, I had enough analytical skills from whatever, just with the luck and the different projects I got. And along the lines, then I started working more and more in tech teams, in tech teams where we were building out, and you can see that after, where I could, work with a team of developers that were working on the analytics. And I knew enough about analytic structures and data models and business analysis in that area that I could coordinate and work, with teams like that.
Yeah. And you call out on your journey line here, gender work and gender pay gap. And as I too have lived life in VC funded SaaS based technology, there tends to be an imbalance in gender and pay. It's something that, I talk a lot about with the gender pay gap. Were you noticing this at the time, or were you just like happily?
No, I was noticing it on 2 levels. It's an awareness, because I think you're very naive. And the thing is, I was so busy feeling blessed that I had broken into tech. So don't forget, girl from the west of Ireland, had put herself through uni. I was just so glad to be suddenly I didn't have loads of debt, because but I was so glad that after all the years at uni, after all the effort that and it was innovative and it was dynamic and look, it was all this cool stuff was happening. And so when I was getting these phone calls to work on these cool projects and build cool web systems and eventually move into the whole area of telco, and you'll see like 8-10 years of telco consulting before the dot boom, where like it was ridiculous. I mean, I can tell you stories about being the only woman on a team of 8 men in a luxury hotel for 6 months in Thailand and Bangkok, where everything was paid for by a big telco because we knew about how to plug the revenue gaps in an analytics system at the back of a telco. I worked at Vodafone, I worked at Nortel, I worked at a range of telecommunications companies, but I would be the only woman. But it was around then that it wasn't just about the gender pay gap. It was the way I was treated when I walked into a room, Kim. I was asked to take notes. I was asked to make coffee. I realized, like, only now, or, as time goes on, I don't know if you can identify with this, but I was shrinking myself more than I needed to. I was trying to conform. And I just noticed how different I was treated. And like, there was one particular, there was one particular trade show it's actually in Florida, in the States.
Oh, good old Florida.
Good old Florida. And
it brings out the best in people, Florida.
And I had been sold this as part of a consulting gig. And I mean, the team of people were so nice. All guys, right? And, it's nothing against guys, but I arrived there and we were down in the trade hall, and I'd done a few trades down in the trade hall. And they gave me this t-shirt and it was so skimpy, right? like tight.
No, I thought you were going to go the other way. Like, oh, it was too big. It was a man's shirt. And it was like the straw. No.
And then they said to me, on the booth, here's your bag. And make sure you use your Irish accent and give out. And they were saying they love your Irish accent. And I was going, you're our best sales tool and all this. And so I was going, you just don't even know how to react.
I'm not a booth babe. I'm a qualified sure, it can be both, certainly. But also I'm a qualified professional.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, at the time, you're not as aware. I mean, don't forget. So you don't. So I kind of thought, well, oh yeah, okay, they think I'm good at sales, and I wasn't seeing it without the lens. I wasn't seeing it because I was there going, oh, I've got so I'm
so lucky to have this opportunity. They're telling me I'm great at sales. Why would I get it? And sometimes you have to be slapped in the face with oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't, because I was in the forest, I couldn't see it.
You couldn't see it. And also don't forget that I'm not making excuses, but when you're the early different marginal group in an industry. So now, nowadays when we talk about DEI as a concept didn't exist. There was since then I've done so much training on internalized bias. I know even what I think in terms of my value, because when you're given a value in a group of people like that, hey, you're the pretty one that stands out there and, wears the tight top, straight away you're just going, hang on. And again, but the first few times, I know it gets called sort of like microaggression. You don't know, you're like, is it me reacting wrong to this?
Yeah.
You're like, and so again, it took a few years in tech to realize, and then it's asking the hard questions, Kim. It's beginning to go, but hang on a minute, they're not treating me the same, and fighting to be either, treated the same, and then starting to dig into, and it's happened to me a handful of times where I have found out men or some are being paid more than me. I think most women with any significant career will have the story, where it's happened. So it's and other marginalized groups. I'm talking on behalf of anyone.
Yeah,
other marginalized groups.
There's women's equal pay day, and then there's Black women's equal pay day, and then there's Hispanic women's, and then there's Indigenous, and it just gets worse and worse.
So, but I wanted to share that piece about not being aware, because I think
Mhm.
what's when we get towards the end, I want anyone tuning in to, I hate the term woke, but there's so much new stuff now. And you have to realize that some of us, we didn't know any different because it was so early days, right? It was so early days. But also, what is not okay, it's a bit like me using pronouns with which I've learned to do when I'm facilitating events, which again, I have to change. I still have to change all the time because I want to be inclusive. But
Absolutely.
back then, we didn't know what even being inclusive was because no one was aware of to a point, okay? No one was aware.
The dominant voice in corporate and business was refusing to be aware, I think, of some of those.
Yes.
And it's easy to when you're naive enough, I will say, speaking for myself, because I was the same, it's easy to fall into that storyline. I'm lucky to be here. Look at
Yeah.
me. And then you're like, oh, no, wait a second. Yeah, I get it. Okay. So you're contracting, you're doing you're doing digital marketing, and then you start the telecom and pop over to New Zealand. Gorgeous.
Yes, I know.
Beautiful.
So back then, a few jobs in Scotland, then to New Zealand. And that's when, as I said, I kind of referenced it in the last point. I started riding the tech wave, telco wave, consulting, living the dream. And around 2005, 7, I was working remotely. I was work from anywhere. I was contracting. I was moving around. I was coming back to Europe. There was 3 or 4 years. I'll tell people I would work 6 months a year. I made ridiculous money and would travel for the rest of those years. So, I'm on to my 64th, 65th country in terms of travel. But I would take 6 months off. I would go and, go around Southeast Asia. My brother was living in Indonesia at the time. Yeah, I was living the good life. And, I was like, hey, this is fine. You keep paying me. And most of the contracts were over a certain amount of time. I think what's interesting here was I was contracting. Most of the time I was contracting. More of my career, and that's why I say in 1999, I signed my first tech contract. Most of my career, the 26, 27 years in tech, I have been a contractor. Maybe 8, 9 years has been on the dark side as an employee, but I have been my company of one. And that first boss, when I was coming out of my master's, when he said to me, no, I'm going to make you a contractor, which means, yes, you don't get all the rights, not employment, but you can work for other projects, which I did even in 1999. It just puts a totally different mindset on how you see the whole world of work.
Yeah, as a recent, in the last couple of years, I have switched to this solopreneur life of, contract to contract. I rely on the internet and networking and LinkedIn to get those. In that age, I imagine it was the same. You were relying on your network. How are you getting these contracts?
So it's all through word of mouth because of that same very specialized, because it was teams that were going into telcos. I started over in New Zealand and I got really lucky, and it was through some networking there, through a friend of a friend. Again, before, text messaging was just starting. And I blagged it. I had a taste at that point of and back to being in the pharmacy, remember, sales, okay? And if I can get in front of you, and also I was a novelty. Again, I was a novelty. What's this Irish, young woman doing in New Zealand looking to work for us as a telco? And one of the first negotiations, I'll just tell the story, that I had for a day rate. I thought the day rate they were offering me was an hour. I thought it was a day rate they were offering, and it was an hour rate. And I came back that year from that contract with 3 times more money than I had left Europe with. Right?
I'm not mad about it. Go get paid.
Oh boy, it makes up for the lack of pay, at various other times, because it's either a feast or a famine. But
you really have to spread it all, spread that Vegemite out, as it was.
Yeah, milk the cow. If the cow is milk, if there's hay there, you make it. because in the solopreneur world, there can be droughts. There can be really bad droughts, and you have to have that savings account and all the rest of it. But the story is learning that autonomy and independence and learning to advocate for myself because, look, 3 redundancy rounds as well when I went employer side. Tech, like nobody has more than a few years in tech and hasn't experienced it.
I mean, and I think, again, not to skip ahead, but we're seeing that today. Like a lot of folks I just chatted with a woman this morning and she was saying, I've been laid off 3 times in 4 years. So I'm going to start exploring fractional life. And I'm like, babe, in a gross way, you've already been doing it. Like these are short-term contracts with famine in between. Like you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. I absolutely love that. So you're in feast or famine. You're coming home to Europe. At this stage in your life, how are you with the financial planning? Like that, I'm almost 40 and that is now becoming a thing I am aware of more so. But I feel like in my 20s and early 30s, if I had a fat load of cash, I'd spend it.
No, I'm good. I'm from a famine country. Don't forget.
That's right. Okay, right.
I'm quite frugal. Now. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I'm still saying this at 53, and it changes as you get older. You do have to start thinking about, have I got a little nest egg and all that. But back then, because I was moving around so much, and I was good at scrimping and saving, and when I'd earn and all of that. But I had in my 20s, just to say in Scotland, I had to settle down for a little while with a partner and we'd bought a house. Before I left again, just after uni, there was about 4 or 5 years where I owned a property. So I had my midlife crisis quite early. And so I just, when I left to go traveling and when I hit the .com boom and I just went, right, keep going. There was about another 8-10 years there where I had savings. But I think I just felt I could hustle and figure it out. Okay. I felt I could hustle and figure it out. I was a little bit naive. You used the word earlier because I didn't predict how fickle tech could be as well. Not from the relationship side. Now you asked, right? You asked that question. I still have contacts from New Zealand. I still have contacts that, like, you can look on my LinkedIn, my 160 testimonials. The first one is from when I left New Zealand in 2007 or 2009. I am still in contact with some of those people. So the early tech contacts I make still are in my network. They still pop up occasionally. And they're the people, that, it's the people. It's the people. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not the company. It's not the organization. It's the people in the teams that you make the connections with. And they're the ones that you can go back to and say, hey, have you any part-time work? Or, hey, I'm looking for a contract. And I that would be one biggest piece of advice to people. And it's, Kim, the thing is, interpersonal, I'm going to have a moan like an old granny now. So I'm just going to do it.
No, it's advice and wisdom. Well, I'll take it.
It's advice and wisdom. People, you need to learn how to your interpersonal skills when it comes to connecting and writing. Like, people ask me how I built my tech career, and I built my tech career by realizing that the tech developers, who were all guys, and this is just the gender profile, who liked CSI and Star Trek, were the people I needed to influence and know. And I went off and learned more about CSI and Star Trek than any person should have to. And I learned to talk with some of these people who are quite reserved, introvert, neurodiverse, whatever it may be, on their level. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I found out the things they liked and I would go and say, hey, did you see this or whatever? So I could make conversation with them so that when I came to them, I had to kick their ass for something in a project, we had a rapport, we had a connection. And the thing is, it's about relationships. It's like even you and I getting to know each other and asking about your travel. And we have a severe, whether it's the digital natives or whether it's the pandemic, I notice in the way people approach me in person and on LinkedIn that we have a severe lack of quality connection going on, and how people need to almost be taught how to network.
I mean, I would agree with a lot of that. I think connection has been skewed lately. I think like, look, I'm remote first, I'm digital first, I'm asynchronous first, and the value of in-person connection, one-on-one time, even writing, like, right?
Yeah.
Messages are the new version of pen pals. Like,
Yeah.
I tell new fractional folks all the time, you will find your contracts through your network. And it's not
Mm.
sales, it's making friends. It's
Yeah.
learning about other people's interests and making it about them more than it's about you, right? Like, I don't know. It's been a fun entryway into this world. And I agree with a lot of that. It is. And like, we could all do probably, on the whole, we could do better. I do feel like
Definitely,
we could do better.
definitely. But I think we don't practice. It doesn't, we don't
It's a
practice.
practice.
It's
Yes.
a practice. It's a practice. Like in some of my career community, I get them to just practice even. You said, I don't like the word networking either. Rapport building, connection making, getting to know someone, finding things in common, whatever you want to phrase it. But we need to practice it. It's a muscle, particularly if you're out of the job market or you're in a particular role that isolates you or whatever it may be. You need to work that muscle.
Yeah. Here's what I found. This is my little secret tip to everyone. Your friends want to help you. Like, I cannot tell you how many of my friends have reached out, asked how they can help, asked how they can support. A lot of my friends, as I love them, could not help my career. Like, we have just explored different paths. And I realized, like, well, if I make friends, those with people who can help my career, those friends will likely want to help me. So, like, just go make more friends.
Make more friends. Exactly. It's beautiful. I love that term friends because that's what I do call it. And, it doesn't have to, because people feel like, this whole thing that your company is not your family, right? That, that kind of toxic thing. But friends, particularly when you're fractional or a solopreneur, is important. Friends and people who will cheer you on, your support crew that will help you, it's beautiful, beautiful end to that point. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're getting back. So Southeast Asia, Europe, floating around the world, and you start to get the itch to become a parent.
Yes. So I didn't think I was that bothered given some of the stories I told about my childhood or the story of my childhood, because I felt I'd been everyone's parent for far too long or whatever, the responsible oldest sibling. And that was partly my doing and partly the situation. But that old biological clock. So I don't know if anyone has spoken about this, but for me, it's certainly it certainly was ticking extremely loudly, extremely loudly. And I felt pressure. And again, it might be back. It is part of the hormonal sort of discussions we need to have, because your body almost gets taken over, your brain, your mind, your body by
It's
this
a parasite. I'd say this is not a mother. I'm a child free for life. It is a personal choice. I'm happy and pleased with it. It is a parasite sucking the life force from my friends until it is expelled. It is why, again, another just like huge hormonal shift that I cannot imagine what it does to your body and life and brain for
exactly
18 months.
Exactly. And why it is a parasite. And I, as I said, I didn't think, I kind of went, oh no, my lifestyle is so good and I'm autonomous and independent and traveling the world. Not that bothered, been there, done that. And then it was just like, and I was trying to ignore it. And I got into a couple of bad relationships in hindsight, again, with this kind of, you're looking for a father, find someone to mate. Like,
Yeah,
and you're going,
baby.
baby. And you're like, what's wrong with me? You're like, and so, no, he's terrible.
I do not want to be connected to this human for the rest of this person's life.
Exactly,
Like, nope.
Exactly. But we can laugh about it. We laugh about it. There's so many jokes made about it. But you have seen women in that period get into really bad situations. And we're talking also about women who have fertility challenges or families that have fertility challenges. And I've had friends go through the IVF journey, and it is not pretty. It's horrendous. It is so traumatic for your body. It's so stressful. And so I kind of resigned myself at almost turning 40. I was like, this is not meant to happen. As we say in Ireland, I just keep meeting Egypts. Egypts is the word for idiots. That's not going to happen. And of course, when I stopped thinking about it and worrying about it, about 3 months later, I met my husband. And on the second day, like, again, I just went, look, I don't know what you're thinking about. Like, we were falling in love. Everything was going really, really well. But second or third date, I just went, look, my biological clock it's like a time bomb here. And if if you were interested, I probably have a year or two that maybe I could still get pregnant. And as he calls me, the golden veil, because we were the one wham bam thank you ma'am example, which is like, I hope people get a good laugh at that. But it was just like, oh my God, we're pregnant. Like, so it wasn't totally unplanned, but it wasn't planned. We just started living together. It was on our first year anniversary of knowing each other. We found out more or less that week. So it was a big, big shock. And this is part of the story. And that's why I wanted to be honest about it. Is we weren't really that well prepared, because we kind of thought about it. We had talked about it, but it was like, okay, what am I going to do now? I'm pregnant. And I'd started teaching a little bit. I'd come back to Ireland. That's when I met him. And I was teaching digital marketing and doing some teaching freelance. So again, freelance. I'd 1 or 2 part-time contracts consulting, but I wasn't super well paid at that particular, it was one of those more family times, right? It was kind of quiet. I was back in Europe, and that year the market wasn't amazing. And here I was pregnant, okay, on self-employed in Ireland, which is really bad maternity benefit. Okay, just so you know, I'm just setting the context. So I've written in my storyline as well, the pregnancy penalty, because suddenly, and on a life scale, our daughter is amazing. One of the best things that's ever happened to me. Amazing. All
Certainly.
good. Certainly. All good. Wouldn't change it for the world. But if I had known what I had known, because I was 42, 43, coming back into it, think about it. So the ageism bit is maybe going to kick in. Not planned. So planned only because of the biological time bomb clock. And hooray! And finding the right person to hopefully be a parent with me, that was, is a parent with me now, and that's all good. But the pregnancy penalty kicked in, and first of all, my maternity leave was terrible. Conditions or terrible pay in Ireland because I was self-employed, right, and I didn't have the benefits from an employer. And then secondly, unfortunately, and it's part of why I'm Row Remote today and everything I do, that sort of 10 years ago, she developed chronic asthma. Kim, this is the bit that I'm traumatized the most about. So she was 9 months old and chronically sick, very, very sick. And when I say chronic sick, people picture a child or a baby with asthma as constantly coughing and wheezing. We've been talking about sleeping. She would cough constantly at night and choke at night. And the nights were brutal. And it went on for 2.5 years. And 2 years in, when we would have the odd week clear. We had not very much childcare support where we were in Ireland. And I was trying to work. So the story of remote and flexible work starts kicking in 10 years ago, because my husband's employer was at the time, his boss was an amazing man. He went, this is terrible. Your baby's sick. Go and work from home. You can work from whatever. You can have flexible work. I had a couple of part-time contracts that were really, really good, but it got to the point where we just said, we can't do this anymore. We have to get her out of this wet climate. So my husband's job was able to be moved to Spain. So that's the start of the global mobility kicked in. He could go to Spain. We get to Spain. We get good health service. We get a dry climate where we are here in Zaragoza. She has recovered fully 8 years later. She will be 12. We've still had 5-6 years of stress with her health, but it wasn't the same level. But again, it's why I fight so hard for the flexibility for women and parents and flexible workplaces and remote and flexible work, because I lived it. I sat with a sick child going, that's my career gone. And when we say that's my career gone, it's so hard to explain to people. It's not just your identity. It's your reason for getting up. It's everything you work for. It's your purpose. and why, pregnancy penalty or being a parent penalty, planned or otherwise, why are we penalizing? Why do we make it so hard for people to be?
I mean, preach. Like, I don't have the answers. I think it is wild that we don't do better support. I do think folks should be able to step away from the workforce and have the same financial, healthcare, whatever support. In America, we are famous for how great we support, new mothers and new families. And also, outside looking in, not a parent, I think that if we pushed for non-birthing parents to take the same step away, the impacts that would have in equitable treatment, in our communities, in early stages of childhood development. Like, I won't go on a soapbox today, but I think there are lots of shifts employers and policies could do and make that could really kind of bend the pendulum back towards humanity a little bit more instead of capitalism. But we'll save that for another conversation.
But the thing is, those whether you're a pet parent, whether you're a caregiver, whether you're contributing to your community, it's not just it's about community and family friendly policies. When we reframe it to be a bit wider than, because again, I thought I wasn't going to be a parent, so I'm not here going, oh, I'm a parent, feel sorry for me, give me all. You're not going to give me all these benefits because I make my own company of one anyways. But so that was a big key point in the story.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so you're 2017, you moved to Spain. I'm going to assume we said baby girl starts doing better.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get a double whammy, pandemic and perimenopause all at once.
Let's bring in that freight train. So, so I started having symptoms. Now, and the books that I'll recommend people read, what's really interesting about all this, and we hear about the vagus nerve, we hear about cortisol, we hear about, if you're into any of your holistic or well-being, you'll know that, if we've got stress, we've got cortisol, okay? We've got so of course, remote work expert during the pandemic, right? I was, working with the Irish government, with the health service in Ireland. I was working with various other challenging situations throughout the globe, including the European Parliament on policies, because I had been there before the pandemic. I started remote when I got over to Spain, 2017, 2018, started researching, and I was still working with the university in Dublin that I had been teaching with. And I had a research grant to look at online education, flexible workplaces for education establishments for third level. So I was kind of looking at team dynamics in virtual environments. I was looking at all that stuff back to the online communities. I was studying.
I was just thinking, this really harkens back to that thesis in such a new way.
Yeah, it was all related. And amazing time in some ways, but I was completely drained. I was locked in an apartment, still with a small child. And my husband, Spain's first 6 months were hard of the lockdown. And my cortisol levels started going up, of course. And I started having infrequent bleeding. And I just thought, it's the stress. Oh, it's the pandemic. I'm only 46, 47. I can't be starting to have perimenopause. I'm too young. and I had no healthcare that was easy access because it was very hard to go to any kind of medical care at the time. So, and get any tests done. So I swept it under the carpet. I kept going, I don't mind that. It'll be fine. Once the pandemic's over, you'll come back to, everything will come back to normal, but
it'll be normal again.
It'll be normal again. And it wasn't. It hasn't been that. So, and then, there's been a theme in my, when we talk about hormonal fluctuations or as you said, the double whammy of perimenopause and the COVID, it's that cumulative effect. And that's what I want to say if I was going to share something as well, that, and particularly it might be my personality or maybe it's my gender, I don't know, but I think we go, oh, I'm okay, I can keep going. Does this make sense? But
Oh, yeah. That resonates. I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm fine. One more thing. Oh, that's all right. Everyone's stressed. Everyone's tired from COVID.
We
Everyone's stressed.
minimize our own experience because of the horrors.
The horrors. So I kept minimizing and I kept brushing under the carpet. And when you do that, ain't no good. And it also ain't no good at all if you have a history. And there's a lot being written at the moment about neurodiversity and the neurodiverse spectrum and the impacts of menopause. It's not good for a lot of women if they're on the spectrum and then they go through menopause. Potentially because, and I could be, I'm not 100% sure, but I do think it's related that if you're masking and if you're adjusting, you are still raising your cortisol levels. I think, so we have to think of how the cortisol is impacted.
I mean, it's gotta be, the constant of like, that's a low, that's a low boil. I can see that as a low.
Yeah, you can see it's a low boil that then can ramp up, right? For me, it was ignoring the signs, ignoring the latent anxiety that was there, the childhood and life history, which is something called adverse childhood trauma, or it's ACTs. You can look them up. So anyone who's had maybe trauma, severe trauma therapy, I mean, most of us have a story or something in our lives, whether it be mental challenges, mental illness, or drama, or family drama, or a lot of grief, or whatever it may be. But if you've got that, this is unfortunately the reality. You will more than likely be more susceptible to your cortisol and different hormone levels reacting badly in menopause. Okay,
awesome.
So awesome, not. But the message I'm saying to people is hot sweats, fine, or eczema, or dry eyes, or these symptoms. Oh,
itchy patch, man. Okay, great. You learn something new every day, huh?
Like infrequent bleeding, the vaginal dryness. The lists and lists. For me, it was definitely like they were all not fun. Okay, but all of those physical symptoms. Think about it: the broken sleep, the body clock gone wrong, the lack of appetite, the sensitive stomach. All together, or 2 or 3 together in 1 week, you are exhausted and your stress levels, because you can't control them. Again, the cortisol starts going, ooh. Add in that you have, as I said, the research shows if you've got stuff in your past, if you've come through COVID and had stress, how many people reported super high stress coming out of COVID, like saying they're still recovering. And so what we don't talk about is that mental health piece. Like I really suffered with just feeling so not myself, so anxious, depressed, withdrawn. I had what I can only liken to almost panic attacks at one point as well. The full on, just didn't know myself, nervous, like super nervous in social situations. And I don't like the term too much extrovert and introvert, but I know there's a continuum and I know the labels get used, and holy gosh, I'm all eloquent and chatty here on this interview, but I am way down the other line now, man. I am way near. I need a lot of quiet time. I can be, my husband said it to me, he said, your personality has changed. Completely changed.
Sometimes it takes a little longer to recharge the batteries, I think.
Well, possibly, but I think what I'm trying to say, or for me, the experience when we talk about transition is, in terms of hormonal transition, is really getting to know yourself again, because you're almost looking in the mirror going, who's that?
Yeah, don't recognize yourself. Yeah, wild. Okay. All right, so we've come through the pandemic. We celebrate 50 in 2022. Gorgeous.
Oh.
And since 2023, sabbatical, keynoting, like this has really become part of your career story, this life event.
This life event, this hormonal transition. And why is that? Well, that's because I've always spoke about it at the start. So I told you it would come full circle, that it would come full circle in terms of we want more conversations, more openness about the impact of hormones. But also that we want to make sure that, we celebrate that women are still in the workplace on that journey, coming through that. Because when I look around, you applaud me for sharing on LinkedIn, but there's very few women above me that are my role models. I can count them that are, first of all, that are older than me in chronological years, or are on the other side of menopause, that we see it in any sort of the business or public eye. Cindy Gallop is a known one. There's a few others, but you can count them, because you start to feel invisible. You start to feel like your society's going, okay, you're finished now. Yeah, you served your purpose, right? And that is reflected in the ongoing story of, it's still a battle for me to get paid equitably and equally. I have to negotiate at another level. I often find I'm being asked to do things for free when other people aren't. I've attended events and found out that the men are being treated differently. If you follow me on LinkedIn, sometimes I call it out because I just want it to stop, because I know it still happens. And other things like that. It's still a battle. And yet we're here as the wisest and the more experienced, and the ones that are saying, hey, everyone, I didn't get it right. I don't know everything, but I am the person in the room that has lived longest, or one. Yeah.
I've got a lot more experiences, so my perspective holds a little bit more weight. Like, I can see around corners further than those with less.
Exactly. And like my narrative on AI has been, my narrative on AI is people overusing AI when we have a lack or a crisis in interpersonal skills for connection, to send messages, so it's kind of like. And also, I've lived through 2 or 3 dot booms in tech, so I'm not going to panic and suddenly install AI on everything on my computer, because there's no point, right? There's no point, because we're going to wait for this tech cycle to die down and the hype to die down. But it's kind of because that's what I've done many times before. So that's sort of where I had 2 keynotes opening conferences, which I'm really proud of this year, because I didn't do as much event work this year as I had in previous years, really managing my energy, like I said to you at the start, and being careful about what I chose to do and what I said yes to. But in both keynotes, one was on joy in the workplace, and I weaved in menopause quite significantly. And the other one was on a more clinical topic, but I brought in menopause 3 or 4 times at the start and the end. And in the audience, both, during and or after, I had people coming up to me saying, thank you for saying it. Thank you for, saying you're menopausal, that you can do this, even though you have night sweats and you're on a menopause hormonal treatment as well, which I am. I'm not on full HRT, but I'm on a mix of other things to try and help the symptoms. So it's bringing that into the public eye, and it's part of that purpose that I feel that if I'm going to represent my gender in the workplace, I'm doing it authentically and honestly with my values front and center. And I'm doing it because of the gender pay gap still, of the discrimination that women experience day to day. And I do it for women and all marginalized groups. Because I know that, again, I'm white, I'm from the Western world. I know some of my privileges, but it's also very, very clear, Kim, that ageism is the one that no one will escape. No one escapes ageism. And any reading I've done, we can talk, someone tuning into this that's going, well, I'm not going to have menopause for my gender or whatever, or it's not going to impact me because it's 20 years away. Ageism gets everyone. Ageism gets everyone. So, that was my parting point there on, that's something as well that I want to encourage anyone. And I know some of your speakers are in that sort of bracket of experience, to just keep saying their age and talking about it and being open about it, because we want to be visible. We're really valid in the workplace and in the world, and we have so much to offer and add. And I want to keep championing that.
Yeah, I actually, for this podcast, for these conversations, I set an age limit of 40 plus. So my thought is, like, I hope to learn from my guests. This is a very selfish podcast. I hope to learn. I hope to again, you have more experiences. You can see farther around corners than I can. So like, maybe I can pick up a gym or two.
Have we gone way over? I'm so sorry.
No,
But
we're fine. We're fine. It's, I
I
asked
think
my
you said
boss.
you did. I think you asked your boss. You asked yourself.
Yeah, that's
I
my
think you
boss.
said
This
to
is
me,
fine.
I think you said to me when we were chatting about it before, you did one that was 2 hours, so we're maybe not too bad. We're 10
No, I
past
think
four.
we're fine. We're totally
Okay.
good. I was thinking when you were talking about like childhood trauma and where you came from and kind of your childhood being I think I'll use your word, a bit of an outcast, a bit
Yeah.
ostracized because of your family dynamic. Like, how you feeling now? Like when you look back and think of like, 10-year-old Ro working at the pharmacy, like, do you think that childhood shaped you to be such the community builder you are today?
Yes, but on my own terms, with my intention, with my needs. When you have had a lot of responsibility at a young age, you feel responsible, which means you look around you and say, I'm responsible for that sibling, I'm responsible for that situation, I'm the oldest, etc. So what happens is you're not used to checking in with yourself, Kim. You're not used to going, is this on my terms? So I had to go through a lot of therapy to learn how to go, what does Ro want in this moment? um, and because that habit was built over, that bad habit, childhood, formative years, 18, 19, 20 years, you it's very hard to break it. So even at 53, I still, have to come back to what is it I want? What is it I need? And also buy myself the time to answer that, because sometimes I don't know the answer.
It's one of the hardest questions to answer. What do I want? And
Definitely.
as a solopreneur, like starting out my own business, what kind of work do I want to do? That was like a wildly hard question. And then you start asking that in other parts of your life and you're like, oh, darn, this is tough.
It is. And that's self-reflection, but it's interesting because back to self-leadership, self-reflection, this is why I agreed to do this, because it's part of self-reflection practice. Like you'll always find me with my collection of notebooks and waving them at the screen here, because I love to write, whether it be lists, whether it be doodles, whether it be words, if I'm frustrated, if I've got a block, I either write or I draw. I have I've drawing stuff right beside me here because I draw as well, and I make little cards. Some things you'll see in the back. I do a little bit of art at home, and it's nothing too elaborate, but they're the ways that paper is like paper for me. Oh, I think you said you journal, or you're right, but it's like it takes it out. It takes it out of my head, down my arm, out, and whether it's a doodle, a drawing,
Just
writing,
get it out. Get it out of me. Yeah.
And it is a form of therapy. And sometimes it'll just be question marks because it's about what do you want? And as I said, if you've never been used to asking what you want, you're not used to asking the question, B, giving the time for the answer to formulate, C, listening to the answer when it comes, and D, maybe reflecting on that and going back through the cycle again. Because it's like a conversation with yourself. And yeah, it's a practice. It's a practice. I mean, it's actually spiritual. And for me, it's a type of spirituality or a type of mindfulness. And yeah, I mean, that's why I've got the pictures on my career story. You may have noticed. So
I have, and we'll post it so people can see them. There's tons of them.
2 little pictures. And when I looked back over the kind of more logical, what did Ro do in her career? And hey, let's get in about the gender pay gap and the different things. When you said to me that great last question, how do you feel now? How do you keep balance? And I mean, I'm sharing honestly some of the stuff, the art, on the other side of the room, I have my 40 plants, by the way. I must take a photo and send them to you. So I have all my plants.
Please do. We should do some. I'm sure it's illegal to do some plant cut switches, but like.
I know. And I'm trying to have this crazy big aloe vera I'm repotting all over the place. And it's really beautiful little spiky shoots coming off it. But along the journey, along the way, I found holistic and I'm a big hippie. I'm a big hippie at heart. I've been vegetarian since I was 13, 14. I found a type of spirituality through animals as well. I have a real respect for the animal kingdom. All the owls behind me are because I collect owls. I collect pictures of animals. I love animals. I love the natural world, and I try and protect it and honor it. And that's why I can't eat meat or fish. It's as simple as that. But as part of that, and being from the west of Ireland, we believe nature and the pagan culture heals us. So a lot of my things that I've done as my hobbies, as my way of balancing and trying to keep those stress levels, down or notice the cortisol, has been things like training as a hypnotherapist and learning mindfulness. I started that in 2000, and I did a 6-year course. And I'm a Reiki master. I'm a Qigong instructor. And I do a lot. I do retreat work. And most days I start my day with a Qigong 20-minute practice. Oh yeah. So, so that's part of how is Ro. Ro is great when Ro remembers what grounds her, is part of my answer. And Ro remembers that it's those little things. It's the little things, and nobody really, we get all these sound bites on videos and on YouTube and everything. And it's like, do this and you'll be fine. No, it's the boring 5 minutes writing in the morning every day, or in the evening if you need it. It's watering the plants with a few deep breaths and like polishing their leaves. It's the little bit of art before you go to bed. It's the stuff that nobody wants you to tell them, because they go, oh, that's a lot of little things all the time. And you're like,
it's the chop wood. I call it chop wood, carry water. Like every day you got to wake up, you got to chop wood for the fire, you got to carry water to eat, to drink, to bathe, and it sucks. But it's those little things, it's that little detail that makes life a little bit better. You got to chop wood, carry water, and you'll find enlightenment. I think we've covered pretty much everything. Anything else our listeners should know or hear about you, your life, your story?
What would I say? Let me think.
It's okay if you said it all.
I've maybe said it all. All I was going to say was that look for adventure. That would be my look for adventure. So let me explain that, right? So and you've heard hopefully quite a parts you might be going, oh gosh, Rose story, that's the parts are hard and everything. I was taking a leaf out of your book, Kim Minnick. So I recently went to the Balkans, as I mentioned, to open a conference, to do a keynote. And as part of the journey or the trip, I was flying into Serbia because I wanted to visit Serbia. I had some friends there. And then I had to get from Serbia down to Montenegro. And there was a sleeper train. And I had seen your Kim Minnick saying she's been on a sleeper train on LinkedIn. And I went, I'm 53, but my menopause symptoms are bad. I am going on a sleeper train. I'm going on a sleeper train. And I should have had some warning bells, Kim, when I couldn't buy any of the tickets online.
I did buy my ticket online. I had a ticket.
I couldn't find very encouraging threads on Reddit or any information. And however, because I've visited 64 countries now and done so much travel, the adrenaline kicked in. And as I was going, I'm going to be fine. It's just one night. I will be fine. And let's just say that I was so dumbstruck by the conditions of that train and the sleeper cabin that I didn't even take photos, because I tried to get back off.
I mean, you learned something. You definitely learned something. Yeah, I would probably recommend, review to travel for a sleeper train.
Well, I tried. However, and this is following on from the theme of this whole conversation, I said to myself, Rowena, let's have a little word with yourself. I took myself aside and I went, Ro, you've given birth. You've nearly survived menopause. You've survived a pandemic. You've survived.
This.
You can do this. And I know there are 5 other big men in the same sleeper cabin with you who have very smelly feet and The windows between the cabin and the aisle are open, so everyone's smoking, and there's smoke all over the cabin. But you can do this, and you can do this. And I lay down, and maybe it was just adrenaline exhaustion, and I fell asleep. Sorry, after about 5 minutes because of the rocking of the train, and woke up in Montenegro, and it was all fine.
It's all fine.
It was all fine.
Seek adventure. Know that you can do it when it gets weird, and it's all gonna be fine.
It's all gonna be fine.
I think that's
the end of it. That's the end of it. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. But yeah, I think our brains talk us out of things. So talk yourself back into it and stay strong.
Stay strong, everyone. All right. I don't know how to end these. So as per usual, we will just see you next time.
Thank you so much.